Let's move on to get some of the Republican reaction to the speech with former White House Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor of Bondi Partners, Mick Mulvaney, and also his reaction to Biden's State of the Union address. Mick, first of all, what did you think of how Joe Biden did tonight? He certainly held it together more than I think a lot of his critics expected.
Yeah, James, here's how I see it. Both sides will be able to say that they won tonight. The Democrats will be able to point to parts of the speech that went extraordinarily well. I thought the close was particularly good. The last 35 seconds, 45 seconds was a really good close to the speech. That being said, the Republicans will be quick to point out that throughout the speech, Biden's speech was slurred. He had a difficulty communicating and following along the text. I actually had the text available to me. The White House puts it out. And so I was able to follow along in the text. If you were following the text and listening to the speech, sometimes Biden was nowhere near where he was supposed to be. And the Republicans will figure that out as well. So it will go to that. The Republicans will say it proves that he's too old for the job and not up to it. And the Democrats will say that it certainly proves that he is absolutely ready. Here's the one thing I think the takeaway that I've got tonight is that the Democrats who are talking about replacing Joe Biden will have a very difficult time making that case tomorrow. Biden did well enough tonight to put a lot of that discussion to bed for now.
For now, until, of course, the next, big, very public stumble. And this brings up a question which I haven't found a satisfactory answer to, which is if he can make it through, an hour-long plus speech with, as you say, some stumbles, some weirdness, some pugilistic arguing with people in the audience, but getting through it without major embarrassment, why can't he manage that in much smaller, more controlled interactions?
It's a really good question, and there's a really good answer, which is that you are not going to get more controlled than this. They probably cleared his schedule for the last 48 hours. In fact, the White House put out his schedule the last couple of days, and he had a very, very limited set of activities. So he's been resting the whole time. You can't do that every single day. You can't sort of say, well, I'm only going to speak once every 4 days as the president of the United States. So you do not get more controlled than that. Well, I shouldn't take that back. There's one other time, which is when you go to overseas and speak with another foreign leader. That's more controlled than this, but that's about it. So if he can do this, fine. But he's got to figure out a way to also be the candidate, Joe Biden, who can go into a room of voters and say, hi, vote for me. And no one thinks he's there right now.
Yeah, and Mick, I mean, you've worked campaigns, I've covered campaigns. That is every day seeing people at multiple events. It's very wearying, very tiring, even if you're reasonably fit. But let's talk about the Republican side of this. Traditionally, the opposition side always has somebody come out and give an opposition response speech. And tonight that was delivered by Katie Britt, who I believe is the youngest Republican woman ever elected to the Senate. Here's a little of what she had to say.
The country we know and love seems to be slipping away, and it feels like the next generation will have fewer opportunities and less freedoms than we did. I worry my own children may not even get a shot at living their American dreams. My American dream allowed me, the daughter of two small business owners from rural Enterprise, Alabama, to be elected to the United States Senate at the age of 40. The true, unvarnished state of our union begins and ends with this. Our families are hurting. Our country can do better.
Mick, tell us a bit, who is Katie Britt and these very sort of kitchen table homey optics that they're going for with a speech that really had, kind of a very sort of homey sort of feel to it. What are they going for here?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Katie Britt is a very talented woman, a very capable senator. She's been in Washington, D.C. for a long time, very sharp lady. I'm not sure this speech landed very well tonight, James. But again, maybe, I'm a 56-year-old white male. Maybe I wasn't the target. If the target audience was suburban white housewives, maybe it's going to go over better than it did. But that breathless sort of delivery, I'm not sure it was as well received. And as you know, as a student of American politics, the response to the State of the Union is sort of an ash heap of people that sort of we thought were rising stars that turned out not to be. Bobby Jindal's career sort of began and ended here. Marco Rubio had very famously burnt out on or flamed out on one of these speeches. Joe Kennedy also had a miserable experience. I'm not sure this helped Katie Britt raise her national awareness tonight, and I'm not sure it provided a very effective response to the
Yeah,
violence.
no, Mick, I'm afraid I have to agree with you there. Just quickly, though, before I let you go, it's not all State of the Union news. There was an extraordinary scene in New York the other day where Letitia James, the Attorney General who led that pretty much bogus fraud case against Trump over loans that he paid back in full and on time, so of course it's a horrible thing to do. Well, she was speaking to a group of firefighters and they were not happy. Have a look at this.
Oh, come on, we're in a house of God. And Chief Hodgins for that recognition.
Now, this is really interesting to me because this is in the heart of Democratic New York. I'm wondering, Mick, has the lawfare strategy against Trump, the sheer unfairness of that, gone too far?
Oh, sure it has, James. I just don't think it's going to change any political outcome. She was speaking to first responders. This is one of the few bases of support that Donald Trump has in the big northeastern cities. So firefighters, policemen are very much drawn to Trump's message on law and order. They push back against exactly folks like Letitia James, who's, of course, made a name for herself, not only by attacking Trump, but by letting other criminals go relatively scot-free. So the response doesn't surprise me. I'm glad it's getting some attention, but I cannot imagine a circumstance under which someone like Letitia James or the Democrats lose their jobs because of this. The Democrats are out of control. They can't stop. Trump derangement syndrome is real, and there's booing from firefighters that I think is going to change that.
Mick Mulvaney, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time on this exciting State of the Union night, Mick Mulvaney.